Folks, I hate seafood. I can't stand the stuff. I never did like it. I wouldn't eat a crab if my life depended upon it. I just don't like it. Now, I will eat a whitefish if you roll it in batter and deep fry it. But I'd eat Travis if you rolled him in batter and deep fried him. And I never, ever can remember one day in my fishing career that I enjoyed hauling fishing gear. So why would a man do something for 25 years, for 300 plus days a year, if he didn't like the product and he didn't like the job? That's why I tell people how I got here and why I stayed. I was 19 years old. I was trying to join the Marines. I wanted to fly helicopters. They were messing with my MOS. That's what my motive of service. I took a buddy down with me when it was time to sign. He said, hey, look, man, you want to learn a skill that you can use when you get out of the service. If they're not going to tell you what you're going to do, go home and think about it. So I did. That night, another buddy of mine, Robbie Lehman, called me, and he said, hey, I just got accepted to Daytona Beach Community College. I guess it's called Daytona Beach State College now. The gentleman told me that the other day. It's a huge college. So I had heard about spring break, so I thought that was a pretty good idea, so I sold my car and took off down there. I was literally starving to death. I worked at Gaddy's Pizza. I lived right in the corner behind Valencia Mall, Bill France Boulevard, in those apartments, for you folks who know Daytona. I could not make enough money to pay my tuition, feed myself, and pay my rent. So when my tuition check bounced, I decided to call my mother. I'd left home early, and I asked her if I could have permission to come stay at the house. I was going to go up to Alaska, make some money, and go back to college. I never made it. Because she told me that some people we knew had gotten a job running an AC store in a little village called Sand Point, way out on a rock in the middle of the Aleutian chain. With the last money I had and some borrowed, 21 hours later, I landed on the beach in Sand Point. They didn't even have a runway then. I was a very shy, scared of my own shadow, 19-year-old kid. I thought maybe they knew some people in that town. Maybe they already had a job for me. When I got there, she picked me up. She took me to the harbor. She said, there you go, make a life. I slept under boats that were on the beach. I slept in Connexes. People that I met that were nice let me sleep on their couch in their hotel rooms, and I religiously walked the docks every day looking for a job. One day I came up to the second to the last boat in the harbor. They were all doing their gear. They got in a storm. Their gear was a big mess, all balled up in the deck. I walked up to that man, and I said, I have $120 in my pocket. It cost me $380 to get out of this mud pit, and I'll bust my butt. They told me they were looking for a man for a 3-day halibut opener. Just 3 days. They'd pay me $1,000. Folks, that's a lot of money to a hungry, homeless kid. I went out with those men. I had bought some cheap rain gear. I shredded my rain gear. I gaffed Arnold Yardstrom in the leg a couple times, stuck his foot to the deck. He just pulled it out and said, be careful. But I busted my butt. I threw up all over the deck, but I never quit working. They didn't even have a bunk for me. I slept at the galley table. We were up for about a day and a half. They were going to go set another set. They didn't need me. They said, hey, is all your stuff done? I said, yeah. They said, why don't you go grab an hour nap? Russell Titus said, why don't you sleep in my bunk? Folks, I was wet. I was cold. I was tired. I got into that bunk, and it was so warm, and I felt so safe. I could still feel it today. Then I heard this fish flopping on the deck. Nobody asked me to. I just got up and I went out there and I stuck my head out the door. They had decided to haul another string instead of setting one, but they were going to let me sleep. Were going to take some pity on me. Now, they didn't say come out. Jeff Ball said 5 hooks, 4 fish when I asked him if he needed me. I went down in the engine room. I put back on my wet, slimy clothes and my shredded rain gear, and I went back out there. That's all those men needed to see. I was a worker. I was worth their time to teach, so they kept me. I made $90 a day for the next 2 years. Those guys were making $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a trip. I was making $1,500. The third summer, they gave me a raise. I made $1,750 a trip. The reason that I didn't get my share, I had met a highliner right off the bat. Arnold was a really, really good longliner. You just don't jump on those boats. They make you earn your spot. The fourth summer, I got my spot. For you folks that religiously watch that show, the boat was the Ocean Challenger. Everybody knows my story out there. I was at Westward Seafoods about 6 years ago. And my captain came down. He said, "You ain't going to believe what just pulled in behind us." I looked out the stern. It was the Ocean Challenger. Arnold has sold that boat. He now owns a boat called the Kelty. His son, Nick Yardstrom, runs it. But it didn't matter. I could not scramble up that ladder fast enough to get down there and introduce myself to those men and tell them that that was my first ride. How proud I was of that man and the guys that gave me my first shot. 3 days later, they rolled over. One guy made it. That's the only episode, I watched 2, I guess, I tried, of that show that I've ever seen. I've never seen myself on it. We were in the shipyard doing this project, and Dave wanted to see if he got some footage of the boat that week. When we got to the bar, Guzzi's in Reedsport to watch that show, that's the episode. When they were plucking the one guy out of the water. I ended up in a parking lot, bawling like a baby. Folks, I never cried one day out there. I cried twice a day, every day here, telling my story. Through him, I met Dave Lethane and Don Jester. We call him Grandpa. Grandpa has the uncanny ability to wake up every morning and when he gets out of bed, he stubs his toe on a gold bar. I don't know how he does it, but he does. I heard he'd had a big crab boat coming, and I knew that he'd be successful. One day I was standing at Delta Western Fuel Dock looking at this crabber, and I saw these guys scrambling all over the stack, and they're going, I'm like, man, I gotta do this. When I heard Jester was building one, I called that man twice a day, every day for months. Russell Titus, that lived in the same town as Arn, finally called me and said, stop calling Grandpa, you got a ride. That little town was Noyo Basin, Fort Bragg, Noyo Basin. Anybody seen Overboard with Goldie Hawn? That's Noyo Basin. Through them, I met Kevin Saddam. Kevin Saddam's the #1 quota holder. The Ballad boats are #4. 2 and 3 are a couple canneries, but they had 20, 30 boats going in their window years. They don't count. Folks, I fished for the best. They gave me friends, a family, a purpose. A man has to have a purpose. And they made me somebody. Because of the men I fished for, I think, they got the most quotas. I think that makes them the best. They got the quota to prove it. I was deck boss for those men. I believe that gives me the right to sail as one of the best. I think I've earned it with my flesh, my bones, and my blood. I think I've earned it. I could walk into any bar on the Aleutian chain, and I'd hear some kid say, "Hey, man, that's Chief. That dude's a deck boss on the Ocean Ballad. That dude's a deck boss on the Lady Kodiak." And I was proud. I didn't have a big head. I had a full heart. I was proud of myself, maybe for the first and only time in my entire life. Now, let me tell you how we got here today. The year was 1997. Marty McMasters, Dave Lethane, the owner of this boat, and myself were fishing halibut right out front. We ended up down at E.C. Phillips delivering our halibut. Marty was up watching the weights. Dave was doing what cabin guys do, and I was unloading by myself. I was down in the hole. I was wet. I was cold. I was slimy, and I was tired. And there wasn't all these tours for you folks to do then. There's some gift stores. A couple of people made it down to E.C. Phillips, and they were staring at the dock, and they're looking down at me, and they go, "What are those?" I went, "Halibut." "Where do you get them?" "Out there." I told Dave about it. We thought it would be really cool. Next thing I know, Dave's an idea man. He's running all over the place. You folks are coming down off the cruise ships, and he's running around. "Would you like to go watch us fish? Would you guys be interested in that?" They were building the Arctic Venture then. Building the boat is really stressful. You get different guys go together because it's very expensive. Everybody's got their own idea how they want that boat to turn out. It's a lot of arguing and screaming going on. When we got back to Astoria with our brand new idea, Grandpa didn't want anything to do with it. He said, "No way. We're building a boat. That's what we're doing now." So this thing got put on the back burner. Dave sold this boat twice. He got it back twice. Now, folks, I'm going to embarrass my friend here a little bit, and there's a reason for it, and you're going to understand here in just a second. Folks, Dave don't need your money. The man's loaded. But motivated people do not sit down when they reach their financial goals. The quota system hurt a lot of us. He thought, I got this boat. For some reason, maybe God wants me to do something special with it. Maybe I could give back to some of the guys that helped me get to where I got. So we went to the shipyard, and we showed up here with absolutely no idea what we were going to tell you folks. We also didn't know what we were going to get back from you. Folks, this is my last tour. I'm catching a plane right after you folks get off of here. I'm a tugboat engineer for the Columbia River now for Tidewater Tug and Barge. Folks, it cost me $2,600 in lost pay to come up here and spend time with you. I'm losing money. Travis don't need to be here. Barkley does not need to be here. We're not here for your money. 4 years ago, I showed up here a broken man. I didn't think I could do this. So after the boat got built, I went back to what I knew how to do. What would I tell you folks? Who'd want to listen to me? The quota system came in. It tore out my heart. It took the race out of the game. They took that somebody from me because it didn't matter anymore. The man that leased the most quota won before he ever left the dock. Whoopee crud. How much fun's that? I like the bragging rights. I like to win. In my own circles, I was a star. And that system took that from me. I was a lost man. I almost killed myself bringing my Bristol Bay boat around. I ended up floating off to Japan with a burned up alternator, took out all my electronics. I got a bad load of fuel. I'm dead in the water, floating out to sea. I got mad when I left and I fired my crew. I took off without a raft and I took off without an e-verb because I got complacent. I had done it so many years, I got complacent. Complacency will kill you in this industry. I'm a pretty good wrench. I got my boat back together and I made it to Kodiak. When I tied up at the transient dock, I walked up to the village bar. I walked in there. I saw Arlene. I said, darling, start popping tops. I almost killed myself this time. She didn't ask me to tell her the story of how. She's a fishing town bartender. She's heard it. All she said was, I'm glad you made it, Chief. I'm glad you made it. Well, folks, I got hammered. I ended up sitting out on the retaining wall. Sounded like a really good thing to do at the time. There's a tree there, so I bent a limb down off the tree, and I'm plucking leaves off the tree, and I'm eating them. And I'm drunk calling people. You ever get drunk and start calling everybody? This man knows what I'm talking about. I drink a lot. I do it a lot. And I'm flipping through my phone, and I went, Lithane. I called him up, and he said, how you doing? I said, I'm in a bad spot, Dave. I said, I almost killed myself. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm drunk. I'm eating a tree. He goes, come here, man. Come here. Barkley's here. Scotty's here. Travis is here. Come here. You're not going to believe what we found. Folks, you guys are like food for my soul. Every time I come here, you feed me. I showed up. I was only supposed to be here 2 days. Dave goes, he talked me to come out on the tour. He goes, you want to say something to people? And I'm like, yeah, all right. I walked out here with no idea what I was going to say to you, and I just went, blah, all over you. And you smiled at me. You told me I was a good guy. You made me somebody again. That's what you give to us. I want you to understand that. My speech starts and stops every day. In between that, I have no idea what I'm going to tell you or how much I'm going to cry. I just don't. But this is the way I end every day. Bering Sea Crab Fisherman's Tour. I do not like that word tour. I don't think this is one. You are not tourists to us. And I'm not a tour guide. Please don't call me that. I really dislike it. Want a tour guide? Go to the totem people. I think that's what sets us apart, folks. They do really good job. Each and every one of those tours does a really good job for you folks. But I think we're just a little different. I believe we offer people an experience, a look into our lives. You are all people to us. And I'm a fisherman. That's all I ever have been. That's all I ever will be. Even though I'm working on tugboats now, I'm still a fisherman. We may not be the smartest folks, but we got big hearts, and we're motivated, and we know how to get something done. If you run into a problem you can't figure out how to get around, call us. Because I guarantee you we will put our dumb heads together, and we will figure out a way around that problem. I am 47 years old in 2 months. I've been engaged 3 times. I have no children. Because you women did not tell me that if I never came home, you'd leave me. I ended up with 3 ex-fiancés, 3 houses that I didn't need. You know, I used to come home and I'd walk in and like, wow, she must have been gone. She took the furniture. Where's my cat? I got one vile cat. It's lived in my house for 10 years by itself, mousing. I come home and she's hanging off the drapes. How you been? I ran out of cat food. I thank each and every one of you for coming with us today. Thank you for bringing your children, because I never got to have any. And you let me play with yours. You don't know how much it means to me. Right now, my mother, she just finished her radiation. She had cancer. She had a week left when Dave called me. I said, Ma, Dave called. He wants me to go up and do the tour. She said, you know what? I can take myself. Go up there and get fed. I love that lady. But she knew what I was going to get when I got here. I hope I explained how much you all mean to me. And this hand's for you.